The golden halls of Asgard shimmered under the eternal light of the Bifrost, a bridge of rainbows that connected the realms. It was a place of endless feasts, roaring laughter, and the clinking of mead horns. The gods reveled in their glory, their stories sung by skalds across the 9 realms. But even in this paradise, shadows lingered, whispers of secrets buried deep, secrets that even the All-Father Odin dared not speak of. I, Thor, son of Odin, god of thunder, stood at the edge of Asgard's great balcony, my hammer Mjolnir resting at my side. The winds carried the scent of pine from Midgard and the faint tang of iron from Nidavellir. Yet my mind was restless. For years, I had felt a gnawing unease, a sense that something was amiss in the Golden Realm. My father, Odin, had always been a figure of wisdom and strength, but lately, I had noticed the weight of his one-eyed gaze, the way he would sometimes stare into the distance as if haunted by a memory he could not escape. "Brooding again, brother." The voice was smooth, like silk over steel. I turned to see Loki leaning against a pillar, his green eyes glinting with mischief. My brother, adopted yet bound to me by blood and oath, was a puzzle I had never fully solved. He was the trickster, the chaos bringer, yet there were moments when I saw something deeper in him, something he kept hidden behind his sly smiles. "I am not brooding," I grumbled, though my tone betrayed me. "I am thinking." Loki raised an eyebrow, a smirk playing on his lips. "Thinking? That's new. Careful, Thor, you might strain something." I ignored his jab, my gaze returning to the horizon. "Do you ever feel like there's something we're not being told? Something about Asgard's past?" Loki's smirk faded, replaced by a look of genuine curiosity. "What brought this on?" "I don't know," I admitted. "It's just a feeling. Like there's a shadow hanging over us, one that even the All-Father cannot dispel." Loki stepped closer, his voice lowering. "If there is a shadow, brother, it's one Odin has cast himself. The All-Father has many secrets. Some might say too many." Before I could press him further, a horn sounded in the distance, signaling the start of the day's patrol. As the protector of the realms, it was my duty to ensure their safety. I gripped Mjolnir, the familiar weight comforting in my hand. "Duty calls," Loki said, his smirk returning. "Try not to let your thoughts distract you, Thunderer. The realms need their hero." I nodded, though his words lingered in my mind as I stepped onto the Bifrost. The rainbow bridge hummed beneath my feet, and with a flash of light, I was transported to the frozen wastes of Jotunheim. The realm of the frost giants was a desolate place, its icy winds cutting through even my divine armor. I moved through the ruins of an ancient temple, its once mighty pillars now shattered and covered in frost. It was here, amidst the remnants of a forgotten age, that I found it. A mural, hidden beneath layers of ice and snow, depicting a battle unlike any I had ever seen. Asgardian warriors clashed with beings of pure shadow, their forms twisting and writhing like smoke. At the center of the mural stood a figure I recognized instantly. Odin, younger but unmistakable, his spear Gungnir raised high. But it was not a triumphant pose. His face was twisted in anguish, and at his feet lay another figure, one I did not recognize. The mural was old, its colors faded, but the message was clear. This was a battle that had been erased from history, a secret buried beneath the ice of Jotunheim. My heart pounded as I traced the lines of the mural, my mind racing with questions. Who were these shadowy beings? What had happened here? And why had Odin gone to such lengths to hide it? As I stood there, the wind seemed to whisper, carrying with it a name that sent a chill down my spine: Vili. When I returned to Asgard, I sought out Odin in the Great Hall. He sat upon his throne, his ravens Hugin and Munin perched on his shoulders. His single eye bore into me as I approached, and for a moment I hesitated. "Father," I began, my voice steady despite the turmoil within me. "I found something in Jotunheim, a mural depicting a battle I have never heard of. It showed you and another, a man named Vili." Odin's expression did not change, but I saw the faintest flicker of something in his eye, fear, perhaps, or regret. He rose from his throne, his presence commanding silence. "Thor," he said, his voice heavy with warning, "there are some truths that are best left buried. Do not pursue this." His words only fueled my determination. "If there is a secret that threatens Asgard, I have a right to know. The people have a right to know." Odin's gaze hardened. You speak of rights, yet you do not understand the cost of such knowledge. Leave this be, Thor. For the sake of us all. I wanted to argue, to demand answers, but the look in his eyes silenced me. For the first time, I saw not the All-Father, the wise and mighty ruler, but a man burdened by the weight of his past. As I left the hall, my mind was a storm of questions. Who was Vili? What had happened in that forgotten battle? And why was Odin so determined to keep it hidden? The shadows of Asgard's past were stirring, and I could not shake the feeling that I was standing on the edge of a truth that would change everything. The halls of Asgard felt colder after my confrontation with Odin. The golden light that once seemed so warm now felt distant, almost hollow. I wandered the corridors, my mind racing with questions. Who was Vili? What had happened in that forgotten battle? And why had Odin gone to such lengths to bury the truth? I found myself in the gardens, where the air was thick with the scent of blooming flowers and the soft hum of the Bifrost in the distance. It was here that Freyja found me. The goddess of love and war moved with a grace that belied her strength, her golden hair catching the light like a crown. You look troubled, Thor, she said, her voice gentle but probing. What weighs so heavily on your mind? I hesitated, unsure of how much to share. But Freyja had always been a confidante, someone I could trust. I found something in Jotunheim, I began, my voice low. A mural hidden beneath the ice. It showed a battle, one I've never heard of. Odin was there and another figure, a man named Vili. Freyja's expression shifted, her eyes narrowing in thought. Vili, she repeated, as if testing the name on her tongue. I have not heard that name in centuries. You know of him? I asked, my heart quickening. She nodded slowly. Vili was Odin's brother long ago. He and their third brother, Ve, stood with Odin in the early days of Asgard's rise. But their story, it is not one that is often told. Why? I pressed. What happened to them? Freyja's gaze grew distant, as if she were peering into the past. That I cannot say. Odin has always been careful to keep those days shrouded in mystery. But if you seek answers, there is one place where the truth may still linger, the roots of Yggdrasil. The world tree? I asked, my brow furrowing. What could it have to do with this? Yggdrasil is more than a tree, Thor, Freyja explained. It is the axis of the 9 realms, the source of all life and knowledge. Its roots reach deep into the earth, connecting the realms and holding the secrets of the cosmos. If there is a truth Odin has tried to bury, it may be hidden there. Her words resonated with me, but I knew the journey to the roots of Yggdrasil would not be easy. The World Tree was a place of great power and danger, guarded by ancient forces even the gods feared. As I pondered my next move, a familiar voice broke the silence. Planning an adventure without me, brother? I turned to see Loki leaning against a tree, his green eyes gleaming with mischief. Despite my wariness, I couldn't help but feel a flicker of relief. Loki's cunning and knowledge of the realms could prove invaluable, if I could trust him. This is no mere adventure, Loki, I said. I seek the truth about Asgard's past. About Vili. Loki's smirk faded, replaced by a look of genuine interest. Vili, you say? Now that is a name I haven't heard in a long time. If you're serious about uncovering Odin's secrets, you'll need my help. I studied him carefully. And what do you gain from this, Loki? Why would you help me? He shrugged, his expression unreadable. Call it curiosity. Or perhaps I simply enjoy watching the Allfather squirm. Either way, I know the path to Yggdrasil's roots better than anyone. So, what do you say, brother? Shall we unravel the mysteries of the past together? I hesitated, weighing my options. Loki's motives were always suspect, but I couldn't deny that his knowledge and skills would be invaluable. Finally, I nodded. Very well. But if you betray me, Loki— Yes, yes, he interrupted, waving a hand dismissively. You'll crush me with your hammer. I've heard it before. Shall we go? The journey to the roots of Yggdrasil was as treacherous as I had feared. The World Tree's roots stretched deep into the earth, weaving through realms both familiar and strange. Loki led the way, his steps sure and confident, while I followed, Mjolnir at the ready. As we descended, the air grew thick with the scent of damp earth and ancient magic. The walls of the tunnel seemed to pulse with life, the roots of Yggdrasil glowing faintly in the darkness. But the deeper we went, the more I felt a sense of unease, as if the very tree were warning us to turn back. "We're close," Loki said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The heart of Yggdrasil lies just ahead." We emerged into a vast chamber, its walls lined with twisting roots that glowed with an otherworldly light. At the center of the chamber stood a massive stone altar, upon which rested a relic unlike anything I had ever seen. It was a crystalline orb, pulsing with a dark, swirling energy. "The heart of the first war," Loki said, his voice tinged with awe. "This is what Odin has tried so hard to hide." I stepped closer, my eyes fixed on the relic. "What is it?" "A fragment of the primordial chaos that existed before the 9 realms," Loki explained. "It is said that Odin used its power to defeat the giants and secure Asgard's dominance. But the cost was great. As I reached out to touch the relic, a vision flashed before my eyes. I saw Odin, younger and more desperate, standing before the giants. Beside him were 2 figures, Vili and Ve. The 3 brothers stood united, their faces grim as they prepared to unleash the relic's power. But something went wrong. The relic's energy surged out of control, consuming Vili and Ve. Odin watched in horror as his brothers were torn apart, their essence absorbed by the relic. In that moment, I understood the truth. Odin had sacrificed his own brothers to secure Asgard's power. The vision faded, leaving me breathless and shaken. I turned to Loki, who was watching me with a knowing look. "Now you see," he said softly. "The Allfather's hands are not as clean as he would have you believe." Before I could respond, the chamber began to tremble. The roots of Yggdrasil writhed as if in pain, and the relic's energy surged, threatening to consume us. "We need to leave," Loki said, his voice urgent. Now we turned and ran, the chamber collapsing around us. As we reached the tunnel, I glanced back and saw the relic's energy spreading, its dark tendrils reaching out like grasping hands. When we finally emerged into the light, I was left with more questions than answers. The truth about Odin's past was darker than I had imagined, and the relic's power was far from dormant. The shadows of Asgard's past were no longer whispering, they were screaming. The air in Asgard was heavy with tension as I returned from the roots of Yggdrasil. The golden halls, once filled with laughter and the clinking of mead horns, now felt like a gilded cage. The truth about Odin's past, the sacrifice of his brothers, Vili and Ve, weighed on me like a storm cloud ready to burst. I could no longer ignore the shadows that had haunted me for so long. I found myself standing before the great doors of the throne room, Mjolnir in hand. The guards nodded as I approached, their expressions unreadable. They stepped aside, allowing me to enter. Odin sat upon his throne, his ravens Hugin and Munin perched on his shoulders. His single eye bore into me as I approached, and for a moment I hesitated. But the memory of the vision I had seen, the horror on Odin's face as his brothers were consumed by the relic's power, stiffened my resolve. "Father," I began, my voice steady despite the storm raging within me. "I know the truth. About Vili. About Ve. About the heart of the first war." Odin's expression did not change, but I saw the faintest flicker of something in his eye, regret, perhaps, or resignation. He rose from his throne, his presence commanding silence. "Thor," he said, his voice heavy with warning. "There are some truths that are best left buried. Do not pursue this." "No," I said, my voice rising. "I will not turn a blind eye to the past. Asgard was built on a foundation of betrayal, and it is time we face that truth." Odin's gaze hardened. "You speak of truths, yet you do not understand the cost of such knowledge. The heart of the first war is a relic of unimaginable power. It was sealed away for a reason. To awaken it is to risk the destruction of all we have built. And what of the destruction you caused?" I shot back. "You sacrificed your own brothers for power. How can you justify that?" For a moment, Odin was silent. Then, with a sigh, he stepped down from the dais. His shoulders slumped as if the weight of the ages had finally caught up to him. "I did what I had to do," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The giants were on the brink of conquering the realms. If I had not acted, all would have been lost." "At what cost?" I demanded. "The lives of your brothers. The trust of your people. You speak of protecting the realms, but at what point does the cost become too great?" Odin's eye met mine, and for the first time I saw not the Allfather, the wise and mighty ruler, but a man burdened by the weight of his choices. "You are right, Thor," he said, his voice heavy with regret. "I have made mistakes, but the past cannot be undone. What matters now is how we move forward." Before I could respond, the ground beneath us began to tremble. The walls of the throne room shook, and the air grew thick with the scent of ozone. "What is happening?" I asked, gripping Mjolnir tightly. Odin's expression darkened. "The heart of the First War, it has awakened." The journey to the roots of Yggdrasil was a blur. Odin and I moved as one, our differences set aside in the face of the greater threat. The relic's power was spreading, its dark energy seeping into the roots of the world tree and threatening to unravel the very fabric of the cosmos. When we reached the chamber, the sight that greeted us was one of chaos. The relic pulsed with a malevolent energy, its dark tendrils reaching out like grasping hands. The roots of Yggdrasil writhed in agony, their glow dimming as the relic's power consumed them. "We must seal it," Odin said, his voice urgent. "Before it is too late." "How?" I asked, my mind racing. "The relic was sealed once before," Odin explained. "But it required a great sacrifice. Last time, it was the lives of Vili and Ve. This time, he trailed off, but I understood. The relic demanded a sacrifice, and there was no one else who could make it." "No," I said, my voice firm. "I will not let you sacrifice yourself." Odin turned to me, his expression unreadable. "It is not me who must make the sacrifice, Thor. It is you." I stared at him, my heart pounding. "What do you mean?" "The relic's power is tied to the bloodline of the one who first awakened it," Odin explained. "My bloodline. Your bloodline. To seal it, you must offer a part of yourself." I hesitated, the weight of his words sinking in. But before I could respond, a familiar voice broke the silence. "Always so dramatic, aren't we?" I turned to see Loki stepping out of the shadows, his green eyes gleaming with mischief. "Loki," I said, my voice a mixture of relief and suspicion. "Where have you been?" "Here and there," he said with a shrug. "But I couldn't let you have all the fun, could I?" Odin's expression darkened. "Loki, this is no time for your games." "Games?" Loki repeated, his tone mocking. "Is that what you think this is? You've spent centuries hiding the truth, burying your mistakes, and now you expect Thor to clean up your mess." "Enough," Odin roared, his voice echoing through the chamber. But Loki was undeterred. He stepped closer, his gaze fixed on the relic. "There is another way," he said, his voice low. "A way to seal the relic without sacrificing Thor." "How?" I asked, my heart pounding. Loki's expression softened, and for a moment, I saw something in his eyes that I had never seen before, genuine resolve. "By using my magic," he said. "I can bind the relic's power, but it will require all of my strength. And even then, there are no guarantees." I stared at him, my mind racing. "Loki, if you do this..." "I know," he said, cutting me off. "But someone has to make the sacrifice. And for once, let it be me." Before I could stop him, Loki stepped forward, his hands glowing with a faint green light. He reached out to the relic, his expression one of grim determination. "Loki, no," I shouted, but it was too late. The chamber erupted in light as Loki's magic surged, binding the relic's power. The air grew thick with energy, and I felt a wave of heat wash over me. When the light faded, Loki was gone. The relic was sealed, its dark energy contained once more. But the cost had been great. I stood in the chamber, my heart heavy with grief. Odin stood beside me, his expression unreadable. "He did what he thought was right," Odin said, his voice heavy with regret. "And what of you?" I asked, my voice bitter. "Will you continue to hide the truth? Or will you finally face the consequences of your actions?" Odin was silent for a long moment. Then, with a sigh, he turned to me. "The throne is yours, Thor," he said. "I have ruled for too long, and my time has passed. It is your turn to lead Asgard, not as a conqueror, but as a protector." I stared at him, my mind racing. The weight of his words settled on my shoulders, and for the first time, I understood the true burden of leadership. As I left the chamber, I felt a sense of resolve. The shadows of Asgard's past had been brought to light, but the future was mine to shape. And I would not make the same mistakes as my father. The throne of Asgard felt heavier than I had imagined. As I sat upon it, the weight of my father's legacy pressed down on me, a constant reminder of the choices that had shaped our realm. The golden halls, once filled with laughter and celebration, now echoed with the whispers of the past. The shadows of Odin's secrets had been brought to light, but the path forward was mine to forge. I rose from the throne and made my way to the balcony overlooking the Bifrost. The rainbow bridge shimmered in the distance, a symbol of Asgard's connection to the 9 realms. But it was also a reminder of the fragile balance that held the cosmos together, a balance that had been threatened by the heart of the First War. The relic was sealed, its dark energy contained, but I could not shake the feeling that it was not truly dormant. Loki's sacrifice had bought us time, but for how long? As I stood there lost in thought, Freyja approached. Her golden hair caught the light, and her presence brought a sense of calm amidst the storm. "You carry the weight of the realms on your shoulders, Thor," she said, her voice gentle but probing. "But you do not have to bear it alone." I turned to her, my heart heavy. "Loki is gone. Odin has retreated into seclusion. The burden of leadership falls to me, but I fear I am not ready." Freyja placed a hand on my shoulder, her touch reassuring. "Leadership is not about being ready, Thor. It is about making the right choices, even when they are difficult. You have already shown the courage to face the truth. Now you must show the wisdom to lead." Her words resonated with me, but I knew that leading Asgard would require more than wisdom. It would require a new vision, one that honored the past but looked to the future. The next day, I called a gathering of the gods in the Great Hall. The air was thick with tension as they took their seats, their eyes fixed on me. I stood before them, Mjolnir at my side, and took a deep breath. "Asgard has long been a realm of conquerors," I began, my voice steady. "But the time has come for us to be something more. The shadows of our past have been brought to light, and we must face them if we are to move forward." I paused, letting my words sink in. The gods exchanged uneasy glances, but no one spoke. "The heart of the First War has been sealed, but its power is not gone," I continued. "We must remain vigilant, but we must also seek to heal the wounds of the past. To that end, I propose a new alliance, one that extends beyond Asgard." Murmurs of surprise rippled through the hall. "An alliance?" one of the gods asked, his voice skeptical. "With whom? With the giants?" I said, my voice firm. "For too long we have seen them as enemies. But they, too, have suffered from the mistakes of the past. It is time to build bridges, not walls." The gods erupted into protests, their voices rising in anger. But I raised a hand, silencing them. "I understand your concerns," I said. "But the path of conquest has led us only to pain and loss. If we are to protect the realms, we must do so together." The gods fell silent, their expressions thoughtful. I could see the doubt in their eyes, but I could also see the seeds of hope. In the days that followed, I traveled to Jotunheim, the realm of the frost giants. The journey was fraught with tension, but I was determined to see it through. When I arrived, I was met with suspicion and hostility. The giants gathered around me, their eyes filled with mistrust. "Why have you come, Thunderer?" their leader asked, his voice a low growl. "I come in peace," I said, holding up my hands. "To offer an olive branch and to seek a new alliance." The giants exchanged uneasy glances, but their leader stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "And what of the wrongs committed by your father?" he asked. "Will you atone for them?" "I will," I said, my voice steady. "The past cannot be undone, but we can choose a different path. Together, we can build a future where the realms stand united, not divided." The giants were silent for a long moment. Then their leader nodded. "We will consider your offer," he said. "But trust must be earned, not given." I nodded, understanding the weight of his words. It would take time to heal the wounds of the past, but it was a journey worth taking. As I returned to Asgard, I felt a sense of hope that I had not felt in a long time. The path ahead would not be easy, but it was a path worth walking. I stood once more on the balcony overlooking the Bifrost, the stars stretching out before me. The realms were vast and full of challenges, but they were also full of potential. As I gazed into the cosmos, I felt a familiar presence beside me. I turned to see Loki, his green eyes gleaming with mischief. "You didn't think you could get rid of me that easily, did you?" he asked, his tone light but his expression serious. I stared at him, my heart swelling with relief. "Loki, how?" he shrugged, a smirk playing on his lips. "Let's just say I have a knack for survival. But I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here to help." I studied him carefully, searching for any hint of deception. But for once, I saw only sincerity in his eyes. "The realms need you, Thor," he said. "And so do I." I nodded, a smile tugging at the corners of my mouth. "Welcome back, brother." As the first light of dawn broke over Asgard, I felt a sense of peace that I had not felt in a long time. The shadows of the past had been brought to light, but they no longer held power over me. The throne of Asgard was no longer a symbol of conquest, but of hope. And as I stood there, looking out over the realms, I knew that the future was ours to shape. The dawn of a new era had begun.